beautiful people. Welcome to my channel. You join me here in Lorne, beautiful Lorne down on the Great Ocean Road in Victoria in Australia. And I am down here for my first ever attempt at Amy's Gran Fondo. Now, I have never done this ride before. I'm very excited. It's 100, for those that don't know, it is 122 kilometers with 2,500 meters of elevation. And this is in fact a UCI qualifier for the World Gran Fondo Championships. This is in fact next year actually being held here in Australia in the exact same course. So, what am I doing? My goal here is to try and hit 4 hours. I've been training for around 8 weeks for this now. And although I had a little bit of ups and downs, had some sickness recently, had a nasty virus which knocked me out for about 2 weeks. So that has somewhat derailed my fitness, and I'm certainly feeling that coming into this. I think lost a bit of power, having not been on the bike for 2 weeks prior to this point. I had a couple of easy rides in this week, which is supposed to be tapering, but feel like I've certainly lost a little bit of strength and power. So we'll have to see how we go. So yes, my goal is 4 hours. So that's averaging around just a little bit over 30 kilometers an hour. Now, there are two big climbs in this. The first is straight out of Lorne up to the top of Ben Werin. It's 460 meters above sea level, and that is pretty much about the climb that you do because Lorne is pretty much at sea level. It is down by the coast. So you start straight into that. It is 10 kilometers with an average of, I think, about 5%. So that'll certainly get the legs going in the morning. And then you travel north inland a bit. Back towards Bacchus Marsh, then you hang a left and you go further inland, sideways, following the coast, but further inland to Forest. And then you hang a left. There's another climb, then up to, I forget the name of the mountain, and then you descend down to the coast, and then it is a sprint along the coast, along the beautiful Great Ocean Road, back into Lorne. So, hoping, I haven't really done a big ride like this, where it's been I have entered the race, so an age category race. So there is a recreation version. There's a medio fondo as well, and a small fondo, but I am entering the age category race. So yeah, haven't done anything like this before. I haven't really had a lot of experience riding in a pack, so I really don't know sort of what pace I'm going to be doing for this. I hope I can try and average around about 35 kilometers an hour, which will bring me in around about under 4 hours, which would be fantastic because I only have this apartment until 12 o'clock. So 4 hours gets me here at about 11:30, so I can have a shower before the long drive back to Melbourne. So yeah, that is my goal. And I will talk a little bit, I mentioned earlier about my training, how that kind of got derailed. I will probably be doing another separate video on that, just as to go through kind of how I've got to this point. But I really want this video to be mostly focused on Amy's Gran Fondo, because in my research of trying to find videos of other people doing this, there really has not been many people who have actually done videos. There's been some people fantastic have done just 3.5 hours recording the ride. Great. If you've got 3.5 hours, you can live moment by moment of every single bump and of the ride. But what I haven't really found is a lot of people sort of talking through the different climbs, how they approached it. So that is my goal with this video, is to really show you guys what a very moderate and average cyclist, how they would approach this, and how what they need to do to succeed, learnings, and yeah, that's I will have some more information for you. So this is my steed for tomorrow. This is my giant TCR Advanced Pro 2, which I absolutely love. I've had this for about 1.5 years now. It is running 105. It does not have the integrated headset, but that's not an issue for me, but it does have the lovely SLR2 carbon wheels, which are absolutely fantastic. Now, something that I struggled with is the placement of the stickers. So, having to do a little bit of research, you do get a big pack with all of the stickers on it. So, for those that don't know, this is how you attach them. So the one with the timer chip goes around the stem, not the stem, it goes around the seat post even, with it facing backwards. And then you'll also get one for those that are entering the age category race. You will get your age category. So that's another sticker that needs to go there. You will also get your mocker, which goes on the top tube here, which has all the information. And then there is also emergency contacts for your top tube. There's also another one for the side of your helmet. And there's also a sticker to go on the front with your number. So that is the stickers. Things to note that you really should have and that are requirements for the ride. You should have equipment to repair punctures. I have all of that in here. These are tubeless, rimless tires, so I can't carry an inner tube because they do not work with this. So I actually have a CO2 canister with an inflator, and for anything that really blows out that I can't repair, that can't just be fixed by sealant, I have a injectable tube with slugs, a little sort of poke them into the hole, and then pull it out, and that will get you home. Not perfect, but given that they are tubeless and rimless, that is what you need. You do need lights. I do have integrated seat lights for the rear. I also have a light on the rear of my helmet, and I have just a little nog light just on the front, just to be seen. And yes, you got to make sure it is a good idea to have your bike serviced. Obviously, having your brakes in good order is a very, very smart idea. Make sure there's no creaks, make sure everything is oiled, make sure your drive set is all working perfectly. You'll see that my bike is absolutely filthy at the moment. I did clean it yesterday, but I went out for a test ride earlier today. I climbed Ben Warren just because I've never been up that, and I had a great ride, but it has been raining all day today, and it had only just stopped. So the roads were very wet, and so as such, the bike is a bit filthy. But, and I don't realize I'm staying here in an Airbnb, I do not have anywhere to wash the bike. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to start the ride with a filthy bike. But I can tell you that it would usually be cleaned on a regular basis, and it would certainly be not in this state going into a ride. Good morning, people. So here we are. I am ready to go in my outfit. I have decided that based on yesterday's ride, warm-up ride, that I should probably go full cold weather gear. Yesterday it was around about 10 degrees, which is what it will be this morning. However, I went out in short sleeve jersey and short bibs, and the climb, and short sleeve gloves. The climb was totally fine. However, the descent, I absolutely froze. So this morning I decided to go long sleeve everything. I have long sleeve bibs, top. I've got a undervest, long sleeve jersey, and my gilet on. I will also be wearing my long sleeve winter gloves. And what I'm really hoping that that will keep me warm on the descents, and hopefully not overheat too much on the climbs. And I'm sitting down here at the moment having breakfast. So, what do I eat for a long ride? Well, for most normal days, I will also be eating Aussie oat clusters, which are there's about 30 grams of carbs per serve in that. I find I have them day to day, and I find them really good at having a really nice slow release amount of energy that lasts me all the way to lunchtime without getting hungry. So obviously for a long ride like this, that's perfect for me. On top of that, because this is a base. I will also be having normally like an up and go, or in this case I couldn't find the big up and go bottles, so I'm having an Oak Plus. There's 30 grams of carbohydrates in that, and I've had these before, and I find that they give a really good fast burst of energy. So great to have, especially as the start of this race is going straight into a climb. So hopefully that'll give me plenty of energy. And just because I love dairy so much and try and get me up to about 100 grams of carbs, I'm also having a little tub of yogurt, which is another 30 grams of carbs. So that's all up about 100 grams of carbs. And probably on the start line as well, I might have a one of my energy gels, which is one of the ones with caffeine in it. I'm very much a coffee in the morning kind of person. However, coffee does do certain things to the digestive systems which you don't want on the start line. So I will probably be foregoing a coffee this morning, and we'll go with one of my SIS gels with caffeine in it. Speaking of that, how do I fuel for the ride? Well, I have some SIS Go gels, and on top of that I have my 2 water bottles. So they're 750 ml each, so that's 1.5, and they will be filled with the SIS Go electrolytes with 36 grams of carbs in that as well. Looking to have about 2 gels an hour, for that sort of 60 grams. And on top of that, just so I've got some real fuel in my stomach, I'll also be taking a couple of these protein bars. They have about 20 grams of carbs in them, and that's a sweet salted caramel flavor. So I have tried having the sort of oat granola bars before. I find that when you're a bit dehydrated on a ride, they are very difficult, challenging to eat. So hopefully that being a bit softer and squishier will be a bit easier to get down, and that little sweetness will be a bit of a treat as well. So I'm all dressed, all ready, just finishing my breakfast now, and then I shall be heading down to the start line, and I will see you there. Well, here I am down at the start on the beach at Lorne. What a cracking morning. It is quite fresh. I believe it's around about 10 degrees. It doesn't feel it. It feels a bit colder than that, but it is a beautiful morning. So anyway, I couldn't not go past taking a little video of this just to see, so you can all see how incredibly picturesque this place really is. And we will be riding along the coast from there, which is incredibly beautiful. So hopefully I'll be capturing some of that on the way with the GoPro, so that you can all see what an incredible ride this is going to be. Anyway, I'll see you on start line.
It's a big shout out to everyone celebrating a birthday as our...
Alrighty, here we are on the start line. Very excited, and we're off. So yeah, it was a pretty hectic start. It was a very competitive age group. I didn't want to go off too hard. I didn't want to kind of really put myself out there and smash myself on that first climb. So went off on a reasonable pace. You can see here there's a lot of people coming past me. Just on this little downhill down into the edge of Lorne, before coming up here to the roundabout and then taking a left up the roundabouts and into the climb up to Bedwarren. Here's the roundabout. And into the climb we go. Suddenly see the grade increase now. There's about an average of 5% for the 10 kilometers or so that this climb is. not too hard. I did find around about halfway it did seem to ease off a little bit. It was a little bit easier to climb. First half, yeah, definitely felt a little bit harder. Don't know if that was whether I wasn't warmed up enough, and maybe sort of the second half I was easing into things, but it certainly felt like although it didn't say on the gradient that it eased off, it certainly felt a little easier in the top half. So putting out some big watts for me anyway. My FTP is only around about 250. You can see there, just putting out sort of over 300. Eased off a little bit here, back down to sort of the bouncing between 200, 250. Again, like I said, didn't really want to push myself. Oh, there's my hand. I think I was trying to turn the camera off at this point. Was a little fiddly with the GoPro. First time I'd used it, and it was kind of mounted under the handlebars. So it was a little fiddly turning it on and off. Wasn't quite sure sometimes when it was on, when it was off. The battery obviously wouldn't last the entire ride, so I did have to turn it on and off for key points. Feeling pretty good here at this point though. Still just settling into a rhythm. A little disheartening seeing so many people overtake me, but that is certainly, I'm not at that level yet. I am very much a bit more recreational, and going into a big race like this, it was always going to be these really fit groups going past. So just kind of stuck in my lane, hung on to the left-hand side, and just worked at my own pace. Here we go. We've just got to the over the top. The speed's picking up a bit now. You can see how wet the road is, which really didn't help. It certainly was a little, and it was greasy as well. Okay, and now we're on to the flats at the bottom of Ben Warren. Pushing along at a good little pace, good speed here. I didn't end up being able to sort of get into a bit of a group with anyone. Did spend a lot of the race by myself, which probably was something I'd certainly learn for next time I do this race. It does make a big difference when you actually jump into a group, even if it's potentially not doing the pace that you want. I did end up in groups at a couple of times, but I really found either they were going too slow, too fast. It just didn't feel comfortable, so kind of ended up just racing by myself at my own pace. But really could have benefited with dropping into a group. But you can see here I've now slotted in with a bit of a group. I think I stuck with these guys for maybe sort of 10-15 minutes, but did find that I tended to lose them in the hills. See here now, a bit more downhill. Again, there was some, road's still wet, really greasy. Had to be very careful on the descents. A little bit of moisture coming up onto the camera, just from the road. So apologies for all the spots on the screen. So we're at the back of the ride now, coming up into forest. This is where the course kind of started getting really lumpy. You can see here there's just this little gradient here. It was just sort of a couple of 100 meters of climbing, then a couple of 100 meters of descent, and a couple of 100 meters of climbing, and a couple of 100 meters descent. And really was difficult to kind of get into a good rhythm. Was certainly feeling it in the legs by this point. And certainly the summit for that second climb was definitely up to Mount Sabine. It was certainly just needed to come. It couldn't come quick enough. I I really thought this area was going to be a lot flatter and was going to be able to keep the pace up. But you can see here I'm only down to about 12, 13 kilometers an hour. Only putting out 180 watts, which is sort of my cruising pace. So yeah, that was a really just sort of settled into my kind of casual, not casual, but my sort of standard long distance sort of wattage, cruising wattage, if you will. Yeah. And just these hills just seem never ending. You're just sort of up, down, just hoping that every time you turned a corner that you'd see the summit, and knowing then that you could you had that nice descent down towards the coast. But it just never seemed to come. It was really tough. Yeah, this was certainly very mentally challenging, this section. So this was certainly, this was one of those corners. I really thought we were near the top, and you just come around a corner and your heart sinks when you see another little pinch climb. Only a couple of 100 meters of downhill just to get up a bit of pace. Little sort of flattish section here, pushing along. Occasionally, get up to some decent pace, around about sort of 40 kilometers an hour. But it was certainly a very challenging section. I really wish I'd pre-ridden or pre-drove the course to kind of really get an idea of what it was like. I would certainly recommend that to anyone trying to, if you're going to do this. It makes such a difference when you know the course and you can mentally remember, a couple of those corners. I was okay. Here's the climb. A little bit downhill section here, and again, roads still super wet. Really some sketchy moments. Did have a bit of a sketchy moment on the downhill section from the back of Ben Warren. I didn't get any video of that section just because it was really, again, it was wet and dangerous, and with everyone around me, I didn't feel safe trying to turn the camera on. But I did have a moment where I ended up with a bit of death wobble on the front wheel, which was certainly a very exciting moment. I was very close to coming off, which would have not been great as I was doing about 50 kilometers an hour. So by this point, very wary of the roads. You can see that it's just so moist. And here we finally are, the summit. Oh. So finally over the summit, coming down and beginning to descend. One thing to note is that once you do hit the summit, it's not completely straight downhill from there. There are some more sections of up and down. So yeah, was certainly looking forward to being able to get into a nice descent and charging down the hills after the seeing that going through the summit tower, but it wasn't to be. There's maybe another couple of kilometers of additional sort of up and down before you finally get into that sort of solid descent. And finally, the aid station, just 1 kilometer away, just at the top before we really hit that descent. You can see now that finally in the negative gradient, so it's slowly beginning to descend and speed picking up, which was such a welcome relief by this one. I was really feeling it in the legs at this point. Those little climbs had really taken it out of me. Probably should have fueled up a little bit more at this point, but yeah, I was really just looking forward then to a nice descent and a reasonably flattish run back along the coast into Lawn, plan here was basically not really push too hard, just let gravity do its thing, get into a nice aero position to try and carry as much speed in the downhills as possible down to the coast. Yeah, and then just basically just put on a solid pace along the coast. You can see here some fantastic supporters, really dressed up for the moment. So it really does give you a little lift when you see people like that, you know, really cheering you on, which is fantastic. So a big shout out to everyone who came out and helped and supported and cheered people on. It really made a big difference to those at this point, where we are 67 kilometers into the ride now, so just under halfway. Obviously, probably the hardest section. And yeah, now you can see coming into where the aid station is, and from here, after this point, really a very downhill. Alrighty, and finally beginning to feel the gradient tip now into the negatives. So still just little bit flat here, but it's finally, as you can see on the left, finally into sort of the -1. Start being able to pick up some pace. Still reasonably flattish before it kind of gets into the really steep section, but by this point, it's certainly a welcome feeling for the legs to be going downhill. You can see the speed now sort of slowly increasing. "70 kilometers in, and yeah, welcome relief for the legs to finally be going downhill. Roads dried up a little bit at this point, which was fantastic, for especially as you're descending with the higher speeds. Still some wet patches around, but definitely nowhere near as wet and damp as it was around the back of Forest, and especially at the back of Ben Warren. I'm still by myself at this point. The packs had kind of split up. There was just people pretty much riding by themselves, just trying to all doing their own pace. Well, this was certainly the most fun parts of the ride, having this nice descent, coming down into kind of the edge of Apollo Bay. So at this point, it's just a case of getting to a bit of an aero position, powering up this tiny little gradient here, and slowly but surely on the left-hand side to the trees, you start to see the sea, which was such a glorious and uplifting moment at this point, to sort of see that how close you are to the sea. You can see on the map at the top, in the top right, that there is, obviously we're pretty close now, just a short section now in this descent. Mentally at this point, yeah, it was definitely had that big lift from being able to see the sea and knowing how close it was to the to that sort of flatter section along the coast. Although in retrospect, it wasn't anywhere near as flat as I thought it was. Have driven the Great Ocean Road many a time before, although I've done it for a long time. Very different driving to riding. A lot of those little pinch climbs up, and some of the rocky parts were definitely pushed the legs a little bit, but nothing, wasn't too hard, but yeah, certainly pushed a little bit. Certainly wasn't as flat as I remembered, so that was something to, yeah, remember. And finally on the left, start beginning to see the sea through the trees. Anyway, I'm going to stay quiet now. and just let you enjoy how fantastic this descent now is down into the edge of Apollo Bay for a few minutes. This was just absolutely fantastic. Just got into a bit of an aero tug and just let gravity do its thing. Alright, and here we are, finally at the bottom. Now onto the flat section, flattish section just along the coast. See there on the left, a couple of people at this point did stop. I did see quite a few people with punctures. I don't know if there was something on the road there, but just seemed to be quite a few there. I was very lucky. I run tubeless, as mentioned earlier in the video. I run tubeless hookless on my giant SLR2 sorry. Touch wood, in the year and a half that I've owned the bike, I've never had a puncture. One of the challenges with hookless is that you can't put a tube in. So I actually run with a mountain bike puncture repair kit with a slug for any gashes that the sealant can't seal up. And then it can also be used as well, so I've got the CO2 canister to pump up if it is required. Yeah, so far been fantastic. They are 28mm, which seems to suit me fine. I had all plans on going up to sort of 32mm for the real sort of much more comfortable ride, but honestly, I've been running those now for a year and a half, and I find them absolutely fantastic. I haven't found really any need. There is a very limited supply of hookless tires that you can choose from. It is a technology that Giant is really pushing at the moment. I know a lot of people have had some challenges with it. There's been some horror stories of tires popping off the rims. Touch wood, I haven't had any issues like that. It is a bit of a certainly not something you want, but I just run the Giant tires that came with the bike, and yeah, so far they've been fantastic. So we can see now, sort of pushing along some of the flatter section here at a good pace, sort of around about 35, 38 kilometers an hour.
putting out around about my, as I mentioned earlier, my sort of cruising wattage of around about 180. Yeah, and look at the scenery. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Fantastic that these are closed roads, so no traffic at all. Just really entire road to yourself. Just makes for such an enjoyable ride. Shame the weather is not quite as sunny as we'd hoped, but yeah, can't control that. Still absolutely fantastic, and just such a beautiful area of Australia. Absolutely enjoy it every single time I go down there. You see some people still putting down some good pace. Didn't really find a group that kind of matched the pace that I kind of wanted to be able to sit in with. Next, if I do this again, I'd certainly try and make a point of really trying to find a group, and even if it's not quite the pace I'm looking for, just kind of sitting with them just to really save the legs rather than trying to do essentially a 4-hour breakaway by myself. So I think that would certainly be helpful. Coming up here to one of the little climbs just around the rocky sort of edges of the course. This is sort of 4-5% climb now. I think there was a total. So I use a Garmin 540 computer. That told me that there was a total of 13 climbs that it had mentioned. I think this was around about the 8th or the 9th. So great to have that sort of mental sort of visibility to see how many more climbs you had. Obviously, by this point, they're not really anything too challenging. Certainly, given you're now 3 odd hours into the ride, definitely beginning to feel it in the legs. And yeah, but it was good to know that sort of you got over this climb, you just had this many more, just one more, just it was. Mentally being able to break it down certainly helped at this point. And finally, the finish.
There it is. Finally.
Okay, so how did I do? Well, I had been aiming to come in at under 4 hours. Unfortunately, came in at 4 hours 19 was my official time over the line. So yeah, not quite where I wanted to be. So let's really sort of dig in, I guess, into the stats and see what happened. So a total of 121 kilometers, although they say it's 122. My Garmin time was 4:23. But obviously official time over the line, 4 hours 19. Average speed of 27 and a half with nearly 1,800 meters of ascent. So looking at the elevation, you can see here it really was the climb up Ben Warren really is a nice steady climb, and certainly felt like it. I'm only up to a total of 445 meters, I think. So I think I did that in about it took me about 30 minutes, and then after that there was this really nice little descent down, and then this lovely flat section along here. This section, which was that climb up to the summits at the back of Forest, certainly did not feel like that. As I mentioned earlier, it really was lumpy, up and down, and certainly did not feel anything like a nice solid climb up this. And then lovely descent, and yeah, just that sort of long section, sort of flattish with some minor climbs along here. Speed, yeah, pretty obviously consistent with that. One thing I was very happy with was keeping my heart rate under control. previous long rides, I did peaks. I was pushing my max heart rate at 180 for way longer than I should have been. So here, really just sort of settling in at that kind of 175, not pushing into my anaerobic too hard. And then it kind of sort of, as you can see, probably as the power sort of dropped off a little bit, yeah, settled down into that sort of 160 average. Yeah, average of 163 overall. What else? The watts, yeah, pretty solid. Obviously, put some bigger wattage up on that first climb up N1, and then it kind of tapered off a bit. One thing to note here that I really need to work on is this stamina potential. You can see here that really ran out of steam at around the 2.5 hour mark. Really need to work on this to kind of keep this, up higher for the length of the race. This was beginning to get to the top of the climb at the back of Forest, and yeah, certainly was feeling it in the legs at that point, which, really, if I'd had a bit more strength and a bit more endurance, I feel like I really could have taken a lot more time out of that. Those little kickers up and down really just sap the energy, something chronic. And yeah, I think that's something to work on for next time, is to really improve this endurance and the stamina, so at least further out along here somewhere. Calories, 270 odd calories. I think I took 8 gel packs with me, so that was one every 30 minutes. I mostly relied on my Garmin 540 with the smart notifications of when to eat, to notify me when to eat, which I'm pretty much stuck to. It did pop up occasionally during some fast descents, and really that's not a safe time to take a gel, so I did have to wait until the bottom of the descent, but mostly stuck to that, which seemed to work really well. I certainly felt from a lot better on that ride compared to other long rides. So I guess my previous long ride was Peaks Challenge earlier in the year. That I certainly did not feel well enough for. Certainly ran out of steam on the on the climb up to Mount Hotham. Still probably some more tweaking to do. I feel like I probably should have taken a little bit more energy, and maybe taken a few more gels. I was certainly towards that end, along the last flat section back into lawn, could have done with a couple more gels just to really sort of fuel the legs. But that's something to note for next time. How did I feel? I felt real strong. That was a big effort. It's not often I've done a solid 4.5 hour ride. Definitely a 10 out of 10 maximum effort on that one. So look, felt really good for that one. I was very impressed with myself. Didn't quite hit my target of under 4 hours, but really, for my first effort on a course that I'd not seen before, I was certainly very happy in myself. Did have added incentive to get back in under 4 hours, because I had to get out of the apartment that I'd rented, and I really wanted to get back and have a shower before I got kicked out. So that was certainly something, and that's why there's not a lot of video of me at the end. I literally crossed the finishing line and cycled straight back to the apartment, threw my clothes off, jumped in the shower, and didn't really want to take the long 1.5 hour drive back to Melbourne in my very sweaty cycling gear. So yeah, apologies for not as much video at the end. I would have loved to kind of done a bit more of a review at that point, but I was really pushed for time. Next year, fingers crossed, when I come in under 4 hours, I can actually, and I plan it slightly better, I can actually, do a bit of a review. I absolutely would love to do this ride again. I feel like I can really make an improvement on that time. Next year is the World Gran Fondo, so this one was obviously a qualifier for that, and it is actually on this same course. So yeah, it'll be fantastic to see so many. I don't want to say professional, but semi-professional and I guess very good amateurs in the Gran Fondo area coming into race for that. It's going to be busy, but I think it'll be fantastic. So yeah, look, overall, absolutely can recommend this to everyone. I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastically organized ride, and I again would highly recommend it to anyone. All right, that's me. Thank you very much for joining me on my first YouTube video. I hope this provides some help to anyone who wants to do Amy's Gran Fondo. If you do have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to answer any questions you might have. All right. See you all next time.